Talk Shows family, is Namsa here at Ngosi Talk Shows. Find your own voice, lead from within. So with me today, I am with Dr. Birgitte. How are you, Dr. Birgitte?
I'm doing well, Numsa, and how are you this morning?
I am well, thank you. Doing well. And the topic today is coping with the death of a child. Losing a child is one of the most devastating experience a person can face. The grief that follows is profound, often overwhelming and deeply personal. There's no right way to cope, as every parent's journey through loss is so unique. However, understanding the grieving process, seeking support, and finding ways to honor the child's memory can help navigating the unimaginable pain. So today, me and Dr. Biggett, we're going to explore the emotional impact of losing a child and offer insights into coping strategies, support system, and ways to find moments of healing at during these tough times. Whatever you might be facing, over to you, Dr. Biggett. What do you think about the topic?
Thank you, Numsa. Thank you it, for bringing up this topic, which can be a topic that many people, because of the nature of it, many people don't like to talk about, understandably, and hopefully not have to ever experience in your life. And at the same time, firstly, with the topic of coping with the death of the child, if you personally, if you're listening to this and you personally, or even someone whom you care, a loved ones, a relatives, a family member, or a friend, somebody whom you care is having to go through the journey of losing a child in any manner, my heart goes out to you because I can't even begin to imagine the pain that you are in, and when the loss is unexpected. In other words, the the child has not been ill. Now, we don't expect our child in general to pass before us. But when it is a sudden loss, then there is a really strong component of trauma in there as well. And my heart really goes out to you because you, in that situation, you're navigating the very profound, very intense, unfathomable grief, which is basically there'll be no word that can explain that. There is no word that will be ever enough to describe your pain. And also the shock when it is something that's sudden, completely sudden and unexpected. There's a lot of shock and trauma that can cause even situations that create a PTSD style without you necessarily even experiencing. Let's say the child passed from an accident, it can cause a lot of trauma and shock. And I have clients who say, "Yeah, I didn't experience the accidents myself, but every time I see a truck or every time I stand on the street corner," I have one client whose child passed away from being at a standing on as a pedestrian properly on a street corner, and there's a drunk driver come around the corner and took her life out just like that. And so every time I stand on a street corner, or every time another person, every time I saw a truck, I am horrified and I have this flashback of experience I've never experienced. And that if you are experiencing any of this, please know my heart goes out to you. Please know that some people are worrying about them going crazy. No, you're not going crazy. Yes, you are traumatized. Yes, you can benefit greatly from help. And at the same time, this is just a natural process. Just like grief is a natural process that happen to loss and changes and unmet hope. When we lost a child, we have an unmet hope. Everybody in general hope that their child live longer than they are, and it's a drastic change. Even if this is something that has, let's say, the child's been facing illness, it's still unmet hope. It's still going to be a change from you taking care, and then it's still a profound loss that's greater than any loss that you could possibly, any parents could possibly face. And so my heart goes out to you, and please know that any emotions, any feelings in general are always valid. And in that situations, whether you feel sad, you feel angry, you feel numb, you feel confused, you feel overwhelmed, all those feelings, horrified, petrified, discouraged, all those feelings are valid. Your feelings are valid. And if this is something that happens sudden and you are experiencing flashback, trauma, PTSD, even if you did not experience the event yourself, that's a natural reaction. It does not mean that you necessarily want to stay in it unless you choose to. And that's the other part. We can talk more about tips on coping with this, but the other part is with grief, everybody's different. And there is no such a thing. Some people say, people was very empathetic in the first 6 months. Everybody there for me. And then in the first year, if people were still caring. And then after that, it is as if they act like I need to get over it, and I need to just move on with life and say, oh, it's been a year though, it's been a year, and or something like that. And there is no timeline when we're grieving. I tend to say, don't give grief time, because some people may have a misunderstanding that time heal grief. Time does not heal grief. Time compound grief, turn it into complicated, prolonged grief. But give yourself time. There is no, you got to do this and do that in this amount of time and that amount of time. There is in grief, there is no get over. That is but it's one of my pet peeves, getting over. Oh, get over this, whether it's a child or it's a loved one from other relationship. There is no get over. And if somebody have a child passed away, your life is changed forever. Your life is changed forever. You don't say, oh, yeah, how do I get over this? You know, your life is, you're not the same person anymore. And it is navigating the moment to moment. And if you choose to as you navigate through journey through the dark valley of grief, and eventually come out on the other side in a way that it's possible to create a legacy and honoring your child.
Yeah, I think you are right, Dr. Bickett. And mostly when you say there is no words that can explain the pain and honoring the legacy of a child as well, I think that's really, really important. And also to understand that grief is really personal, because people, they will try to ask people who have grieved before getting too many advice from people. But it's really, really important that that sadness, that anger, we're not supposed to feel guilty. And even numbness is normal. When you feel numb, it's really normal. But instead of asking for an advice, like Dr. Biggett said, you can either go to a professional and do things right, get support, because sometimes when you ask for advice, people who have grieved before, it gets confusing. Like now, for me, I'm getting to realize that every process of grieving is different. So we grieve in a certain way, but what you don't do is never ever suppress your emotions. Allow yourself to mourn it in your own way. That's really, really important. So Dr. Birgitte, what advice can you give someone who is not really open to seeking support from their loved ones? Because some people really, they don't tell their families what they're going through, and they keep it to themselves. But when grief, you need support. So what advice can you give that person?
So there are a couple things that I can say in that aspect. And the first one is just know that receiving proper support can make a huge difference. And again, of course, this is whether you choose to. At the end of the day, everybody has a choice. Now, we do know that in the past, before people understand, I mean, the past means only just a few decades ago, before people understand the importance and people understand and allow, but people understand the importance of receiving proper professional support, the loss of a child results in 80 more than 80% of divorce. In other words, early statistics showed that 80% of marriage that was in good situations when a child passed dissolved because people not understanding what's going on with themselves and with each other, and therefore it end up dissolving the marriage. And this is the death of the child or the loss of a child. It's in any manner. So sometimes it could be from an estrangement and other form from a child that result in divorce, 80%. Now, with the proper support, the newer statistic actually shows that when people allow support, the death of the child does not result in divorce the way it was anymore. The divorce rate of some people of couples who experience loss of a child is no different than the general divorce rate of that population. So, for instance, the divorce rate in general population here, at least in the US, about 40-50%. That is stays true for couples who have received support from the after a loss of a child. Now, of course, everybody has their choice, but for some people, understanding that if you are in a relationship, and this could be divorce, or if this is not a marriage, but it is a union, it is a separation of the union. So that's, for some people, that's one thing, NUMSA, that can help them understand, okay, you know what, it's going to affect not just me, but it's going to affect my significant other, and it's going to affect our relationship. So that is one. And then the other one, to people who does not want to receive help. Now, there is a difference between not wanting to receive help and support from family members and friends versus not wanting to but allowing to help from professional versus just not wanting to receive help. I have many clients who come to me as a grief and trauma recovery coach, as particularly with complex and my specialty, complex prolonged grief and complex PTSD. Many clients come to me and says, you know, I have a therapy, I have had this, but they are not allowing family member and friends to come close to them to support them. And this is very different than actually not allowing support at all. The majority of the one who does not want to allow friend and family member, that's because in their experience or their belief or seeing other people experience, they are concerned of people not knowing what they're doing and hurting them more. Or perhaps early in the day, I just spoke with somebody the other day. The person said, you know what? It just people stay in his word. People say stupid thing that hurt me even more. I don't even want to talk to anybody. I got to go to work. Let me work. Don't talk about it. I got to do this and that. Let me just do that. You might as well just don't say anything. I don't want your support. And yes, I understand you mean well, but you don't know what you're talking, and you just make me angry or make me hurt. And so, well, many people do that. I have many clients who say, "Yeah, I cut these people off, and I cut that person off, and that, because they're just hurting me." And that's very understandable. There are many more than at least a dozen misunderstanding or myth. The grief recovery specialist from the Grief Recovery Institute, one of the organizations who's trained and certified me, says that there are many myths or misunderstanding about grief, and that is widespread in the society. And when people not knowing but taking action based on these myths, it's or misunderstanding, it hurts grievers a lot more. And so many grievers do that because they say, yeah, I just don't want you to say and do things that hurts me more. So they become protective of themselves. Now that's one thing. On the other hand, if the person really does not allow any support, doesn't allow any professional support from relatives, friend, family, just does not allow any support from anywhere, then there are a couple things. Firstly, everybody has their own choice. And sometimes when the pain is so much that it's incomprehensible, that sometimes we just need time before we even able to move forward, because this is when you choose your time is very important. Everybody wants our loved one to be able to feel better, but for some of us, we just cannot even comprehend what's going on, particularly when it's a sudden loss. We still feel like we're in a twilight zone or something surreal. And we need time to grip with reality, so to say. And in those meantime, we might still and sometimes people still in these states of this not real. I'm in a bad dream, so to say, state. And so sometimes the pain is so profound, the shock is so profound that the person is not able to, it's kind of like almost trapped in a twilight zone. And as a friend and family, you want to understand this, and you can continue to be able to be there by your presence, even if the persons refuse it. Compassionate presence, little words, not a lot of words, just compassionate presence. And then if this is been a little time and you notice that you yourself or your loved ones perhaps are still in a state of not allowing any help, you might ask why. And many people has a misunderstanding that when they navigate through their grief, that when they recover from their grief, that when they're feeling less pain, then they are loving less. Practically about 95% of my clients come to me and say, I want to feel better, but I don't want to stop loving. I want to feel better, but I don't want to forget. And that's a very common misunderstanding. It's such a common myth, common misunderstanding about grief. If I feel better, I'm going to start forgetting. If I feel better, that means I'm no longer loving. And if I feel better, I'm not dedicated and devoted. And for a parent, particularly if there is a guilt component, and it's very common to have guilt component when there is grief, and it is even more common because we feel responsible for our child. even if the person is an adult, 40 years old or something, we feel responsible for our child to have a lot of guilt component. The person whom I say the child passed away is literally standing around standing on the sidewalk. This is the client said, I should have been with him. I should have been with him. The gentleman's not a young kid. The gentleman's in his 30s. And he was on his way. He was at work. I should have been with him. For everybody else, logically, like, how are you going to be with him? You're going to follow him 24/7? But in her mind, the mother's mind, I should have been with him. I should have known. I should have had a premonitions. A lot of should have, could have, because there's a guilt. And the many people believe that when they recover, that means they release their guilt. If they release their guilt, then that means they are not loving. The truth is, it's actually the opposite. Just know that the truth is opposite. We mentioned that in a different talk before, Numsa. But in general, your nervous system works in such a way, your brain work in such a way that the more you are in pain, the less you are able to remember your loved one. The more you are in pain about something, including your child, the less you are able to remember the person, because your fight or flight system, your limbic system, your survival natures will do everything it possible to forget the pain as part of your survival. And so the more you are in pain, I have many clients who has loss of child who come to me and they are forgetful. Not only about the child, they cannot remember, they remember the child in a very painful way. It's everything that painful, it seems like a huge monster here. And then they don't remember much of any of the good memory, which is not the way your child want to be remembered. Your child would not possibly want to be remembered as a pain instead of as a joy, instead of a fond memory. And so they have this huge memory of occupying, consuming pain, memory of the loss, but they are starting to forget over time. And I have people who come to me and say, I noticed that I am forgetting. I'm forgetting all these different things about my child. And also I become forgetful in general in life. And that's because the way your brain works. And that is when you are allowing yourself to recover from the pain, it will allow you to remember all the good memory about your child or any of your loved one in this case, much more than if you are in pain. And it is not very honoring to the child. And we're not talking about this in a Pollyanna or pussy way, but would your child want to be remembered as a source of pain to you and anybody? I suspect not. And if you're in such a pain, you can't really talk about the child, that just the thought of it make you fall apart, so to say, a breakdown and crying, and you're not talking about the child, celebrating and creating beautiful things out of from the memory of your child. That is not honoring. And everybody has their choice. You have the time that is right for you. But when you are allowing yourself to recover, allowing yourself proper professional support to release the grief, it is possible for many, many, many parents to transform that pain, to transform the loss into legacy for the child. And that will allow you to recover, to move forward, not get over, but you are a changed person, but continuing on in life with less pain, more love, more joyful memory, more cherishment, and creating, if you choose to, a beautiful legacy for your child, that honor your child life, because every child deserves that.
Dr. Biggett, you know, when you say to seek proper support, and you also say death of a child can cause a divorce to parents. I think there are so many parents that I've met. When you talk to them, they're like, after the death of my child, uh, me and my husband couldn't, because they start to blame each other, or sometimes they withdraw their feelings because they feel that they were together for the sake of the children. So they end up blaming themselves, and they don't grieve properly, because grief is all about becoming one and accepting the changes that happens in your life, and just truly grieve with grace. That's where professional, you always need to have someone that can actually support you, a professional that can actually support and help both parents to cope with the grief. For me, I think the way I say it, that is all about accepting the changes. Once you accept that what I had before is no longer there anymore, because your child is always, although they are gone, but they are always with you. And also, if some people don't understand that when you hold someone, you're actually holding them not to go to heaven, because their soul can be detained, if if parents or members of a family, they don't cope properly with their death, because they can feel it. A soul can feel if someone is not coping, so they can delay their soul going to heaven, because they want you to accept their death so you can release them in your heart. So when someone dies, it's really, really important to actually understand that although they're gone, we're all gonna die anyway someday, but we'll be united anyway with our families, to just to accept and things like that. Like for me, uh, it was a struggle, but through that, I had to learn with my dad that although he's gone, I had to start cherishing good memories. And also, I had to embrace his legacy, like you said, and really knowing that someday we're going to see each other. So it's really, really, really important to learn from family members sometimes, or maybe a trusted friend. Sometimes the family members can make it worse, because when you grieve a lot, they're like, oh, this one, or you can feel it that they are there, but they don't really want to support you, because they want to get over it. They want you to get over the grief and be normal, but it does not work like that. So that's why for me, I've always have a professional. Everything that I deal with, I've always make sure that I have a professional, somebody around me, because I need that person to direct me to the right direction, so I can find the closure. And but now, when someone dies in my family, I no longer hold on. I get a shock, but I'm no longer like I used to be before, because I understand how the soul works and stuff, between God and all these things. Sometimes you can see the death that is a sudden death. Sometimes it could be that person has been taken by Satan, or so I can make a difference. So I can pray and just accept, allow them to go. Like my uncle died a few months ago. It was a sudden death, and but I had to learn to go to people to pray with me, And once we had a prayer, I had to understand that he's gone and never gonna see him, and then release those emotions. But I think that was better. But my family did not cope because you could see when you talk to my mom, she was really, really hard to that. He's just gone too soon. They didn't expect it. So sometimes it can cause lows and lows. But parents, there are some parents when they lose a child, they cope really well because they know they cherish the memories and things like that. So what advice can you give someone like parents who are struggling to accept the death of their child, the two of them, because there are some relationships that are strong because of children. And so, what advice can you give those two couples if they're struggling?
Yeah, I hear you, Numsa. And a couple things that I can say is about that. And as with grief, number one, with grief in particular, because grief is very individual, is as unique as the combination of your fingerprint, as I usually say. I usually use the word recommendations and suggestions instead of advice. That's to even start with. And the reasons for that is it's different for everybody. Now, because sometimes advice has a weight of making you feel that you got to do it, but if it does not feel right to you, then you need to do with what feels right for you, particularly when it comes to grief and loss of a child. Now, a couple recommendation and a couple knowledge I can share. And the first one is for anyone who has lost a child, my heart goes out to you. And it is very understandable in our intellect, that yes, everybody die at the end of the day. But for anyone who has lost a child, hearing that sentence can feel like a greatest slap to you. And if you feel that way and you say, well, yeah, everybody died, but why wasn't it me? Why is my child instead? So everybody die at the end of the day. So maybe I should go to now. My heart goes out to you, and my heart goes out to you for the pain that you are in. And I can only imagine how that sentence sometimes make you feel, sometimes not. So, but please know that there are people who can understand you as you are. And so that's number one. The other part is actually, yes, while acceptance is very important, I also want to mention briefly, there are many people who come to me and says, I feel guilty. And at the same time, I also don't feel guilty and only feel angry. Grief usually is a roller coaster and mix of emotions. And but I used to go to church, and I just hate God right now. I just hate God. I hate or the universe or the divine or whomever your belief line is. And if that's what's going on with you, please understand that you do not need to feel guilty. Many, many, many priests and the religious leaders understand this, that grief can turn even the most devout person away out of the pain. And it's not because you are a bad person or because you are sinful or anything, but it is the pain is so unbearable. And if particularly if you've been going to that location, sometimes I say, well, it sounds like it's the community because it's reminding you, at least for now, it's too painful. What about if you go to a different location? What if you practice at home? And sometimes that's more bearable. So, but if in any version of that, you just can't stand going to that particular community, religious community anymore, or you just suddenly decide feel that this is so unfair and now I hate the universe or God. Please know that it does not make you a sinful person. It does not make you a bad person. It is the unfathomable pain that you are in that leads you to be that way. Now you have a choice to be in that pain or to receive help such that you're not continuing to be in that pain. And back to your questions, Numsa, about acceptance. Acceptance is very important and very beneficial, but to a degree, acceptance is a little bit overrated. And in other words, acceptance and there are many beliefs, there are a lot of people believing out there that you must reach the state of acceptance, and even worse, you must be able to forgive whomever, whatever, including yourself. Otherwise, you're not able to move forward. And this has become a trap, as well as sometimes reason people use to not be able to move forward. The truth is you can navigate through the grief and move forward in your life without full acceptance. That the truth is, and I have many clients done this, and are moving forward and fine in their life. The truth is you can move forward, navigate through your grief, and move forward in life without having to forgive fully, or without having to forgive. Many people say, I can't forgive. I have been to 3, 4, 5, 7 years. One person's 60 years of help in some form or another, therapy, mindset coaching, just reading things. I can't flicking forgive, if literally the word. And so I'm stuck. And many of them, I'm their last straw, so to say. And I say, you don't need to. If you choose and you want to move forward, but you can't forgive, you don't need to. But you can still release pain. You can some of the pain if you choose to, and move forward in life and feel much more at ease. And many people they were having nightmare or health problem, physical problem, because we know grief causes physical problem, physical health. Grief affected your physical health as well. So they are able to release the pain, emotional, as well as release the physical pain, or at least have it much more comfortable. So yes, it's good to be able to reach the state of acceptance. Yes, it is ideal that you are able to forgive, but it is absolutely possible. Many people has done this. And it is absolutely possible for you to be able to navigate through this as well as move forward. Again, it's not get over, but move forward without having full acceptance, without having to forgive.
I like it, Dr. Birgitte, when you keep repeating for people to be aware about getting over it. And also, when people saying, I hate God, I hate the universe, and they can't forgive. I have my friend in the UK, her son was killed. She was the leader of the church, but she left the church and she said, where was God when my son was taken away? But sometimes what people have to understand is you can actually ask God, was it your doing, God, to take my son away? God can give you a reply that no, it wasn't me. And if it wasn't him, sometimes it is the sins of our ancestors or our sins. God does not have control if we don't belong to Him. If our ancestors have worshipped other gods, when they come and take that child, God, because He knows that you've given your soul away. So it's really, really important for people to understand the spiritual world and the physical world, how it works. Because there are some things that are happening in the physical and people don't know what is happening spiritually. So that's when being a Christian comes in, or just really understanding how God works and things like that. So you can, instead of holding on and saying, I hate God, sometimes you might hate the innocent man that did not do anything. Or sometimes if God sees that that person is ready to come to heaven, he can take that person. If he feels that their work is done on earth, he can take them. So it's really, really important to people to understand that you don't have to hurt anybody. All you have to do, because if you lose a child, that child will want you to go on. If you were to ask a child, what would you feel when you die? What would you want me to do? That child will tell you that life must go on. Honestly, yeah, they'll tell you that life must go on. But it's not easy. Really, to accept someone that they are gone is not easy. So it's really, really important. Me, I spend time removing souls that are stuck on earth, torturing people through prayers. And there's so many souls that are scattered everywhere. So those souls, they don't know where to go because they're being held. So if that child goes, it's up to the parents now. How do I respond to this pain? How do I, like one of our audience lost her son and last week, and I've seen how she does things, how she still pops in a talk show and makes some comment and stuff, because she knows that this is where she can get help. She knows that she's surrounded by love and stuff, but some people don't have all that. So, Dr. Birgitte, what advice can you give someone who is in this world where they feel everything is short? Because sometimes life may not make sense. And for me, I I know that when you're going through tough times, it's where you actually know who your friends are, who your family members are. Because when I was facing death with Lucifer, my family members did not want to know. They were like, there is no such thing as someone wanting to sacrifice you. Why, who would do that in the family and stuff like that? Because they're ignorant. Uh, but at the same time, I find myself being helped by the strangers, people that I didn't know. God using people. I am here today not because of people that I knew. It was strangers that I didn't know, and they dedicated their lives to teach me how to survive the sacrifice. Because even me, I would hear the celebrities talking. I would hear people saying that one is sacrificing when they're singing. Why do people die? They're sacrificing. But I've never ever thought that one day it will be me facing that. But I had to go through the grief of losing, because when you go through sacrifice, the process they do, they take away your identity. So your identity becomes empty. What is meant for you, it get transferred to somebody else. So I had to go through that grief. But going through that, the only person that stood by me, because my mom, she's a pastor, she knew that was what it is. But family members did not want to know. they would have made me feel worse. They would have killed me with their feelings and their action. So what would you advise can you give someone who actually feel that people have failed them? I also had a friend, when I was talking to her, she felt that the system has failed her. You could see that her life is falling apart. She lost her daughter, um, and she lives near where I live. She lost her daughter and her other daughter because they now go to the other one is older and the other one, but now they are all in secondary school now. But she feels like she's basically grieving, and she says the system has failed me. And you can see, like now, she's left with insanity. So, what advice can you give someone feeling like that?
Yeah, I hear you, Numsa. And for anyone who are going through a lot of things or a lot of feelings from one things, in either case, and feel that the systems failed you, that that firstly, there's a difference between feeling that the systems failed you, whatever system that you happen to be in. So for instance, if you feel that whatever system that the UK where you are, Numsa, is living, it has failed you, that does not necessarily mean the person feel that everything is hopeless. Might just feel that the system in the UK or in the United States or wherever place that you are, the system and the people in place failed you. And there is a big difference. There is a difference between that and everything in life fails you. But if you feel the particular system failed you, then you want to ask, is it truly the systems, or is it perhaps you need somebody to help you navigate the system? For instance, here in the United States, to be honest, I don't know the system in different countries. But for instance, here in the United States, when at certain age, people have these things called Medicare. And it can be very complicated and confusing if you don't understand it very well. And therefore, even for my parents, for instance, I say, go get a professional, somebody who is a professional in there, because I can't comprehend this thing. Doesn't matter what educations I have, even though I speak English fluently and so on and so forth, I can comprehend this thing. Go get somebody and find somebody who can help you. And then when they need something, I usually find them resource for people to call to help them. So that might be what the person needs, somebody who really understand the system, if it is the system. Now, when we are grieving, it's also possible that we feel that everything failed us, which is different than just a system. If you feel that everything failed you, even when you feel the system failed you, but particularly if you feel everything failed you, life has failed you. Firstly, my heart goes out to you because I can only imagine the pain that you are in. Many times that is a state when you feel that your loved ones, friends, families are not able or not willing and therefore not able to help you. And life and everything that you have tried has not worked. And I can only imagine, I can relate to a good degree, and I can only imagine how that feel. And please know this, two things with that. Number one, your feelings always valid, but your thoughts influence your feelings. And depend on your thoughts, it can make you feel that things are hopeless, that things are completely awful in every way possible. And no, we're not talking about being in denial, but we know that grief by itself, just grief by itself, can influence our ability to perceive, to look at things, and our ability to think of things. Being in grief, I use the analogy of being in grief is equivalent to wearing a very dark sunglasses. And so if you wear a very dark sunglasses and your surrounding already dark, you're lucky if you don't hurt yourself more. And so many times I have so many people who are currently working. So they are professional. They're working for one thing or another in their life. They have a job. They have a career. They have a business. And an impactful grief happened. One of the things they said is, and I really don't even know if I still want to do this. I feel I'm also everything happened and everything at my work just awful, and I feel I'm in the wrong place of work, I'm in the wrong business and wrong career. For if the grief has been going on more than a short time, even sometimes sometimes it's even early on in the grief, and this is very normal. This is very common to happen because the way grief influences your brain. Grief exacerbated everything that is painful. That's what grief does to your brain and nervous system. When you are grieving, you suddenly has flare up of every physical conditions, and if people who has thing like arthritis or back condition or this and that, it suddenly becomes so much more painful because grief and influence your brain and cause major inflammations in your body. And from that, it makes everything physically and emotionally much more painful. And then when you are in such great pain, it's very easy to feel everything's hopeless. And now it's not only emotional, but now your physical conditions start to fail you and everything else start to fail you. So please know that if you feel that life failed you, firstly, my heart goes out to you. Your feelings always valid, but also know that your thoughts influence your feelings. And no, we're not being in denial, but also know that grief influence your ability to think and see things. And so if you might, have you ever have this experience, perhaps Numsa, where you for instance, we drive on the road or go around with our life, but then somebody starts saying, you know what? Somebody start talking about yellow car, yellow car, yellow car, yellow car, yellow car, and then now you got in your mind yellow car. And the next times you get on the road, you suddenly see so many. Never noticed there are that many yellow car on the road, but because your mind is tuned to yellow car now, and you're like, where's all this yellow car coming from? It has been there all along, but you weren't looking for it. But before, perhaps you personally has and this happened with me because I have a greenish color car, and before I had the green car, it's never happened. Well, I never realized there are green cars on the road, really. And I'm like, oh, that green car, green car, green car, green car. But if your mind is on the green car because you drive green cars, you're like green car, and then all the other car. And then, but now suddenly you got in your mind yellow car, you're like, oh, there's a lot of yellow car. Before that, you never notice it because you always think about green and white car, for instance. So if you are at the state of believing there's nothing work, nothing work, nothing work, nothing work, there's no help, no help, no help, no help. Sometimes some people can bring help in silver platter to you. You still will not recognize it because your mind is not able to receive it. And so in that situations, I would say that perhaps use the word yet or up until now. This is some things I share with my coaching client actually, but my gift to you is use the word yet. If all that you have experienced is just doesn't work, doesn't help, doesn't work, doesn't help. It's very natural to get trapped in that thinking. It doesn't help. You try this, doesn't help. Oh God, look at that. It really doesn't help. Nothing help really. Nobody help really. How about if you allow yourself the gift of the word yet? Doesn't work yet. No help yet. But that means that it's possible the next one will help, even just a tiny bit. And sometimes it's our expectations. People that has experienced grief for a long time, they come work to me, I would say. And yes, with coaching, it takes a few months, not years, to move through and recover from your grief. But still, I would say, just so you understand, this is not an overnight work. Don't be surprised if 2 weeks from now you do not feel any differently. And if they come with physical conditions secondary to the grief as well, then we might say you might feel better in this that is this uncomfortable right now. But it doesn't mean I'm gonna have a magic one and go boom like that, and then you suddenly, if you have a physical changes in your joint, would you possibly feel better if it is exacerbated by the inflammations that come from the grief? Yeah, it's very possible and happen many clients. And at the same time, would it dissolve completely? It might not. You might go from you having to take pain medications 3 times a day to only once a day. This is not magic. This is evidence-based approaches that help. And so sometimes it's also our expectations. We say, oh, well, we want to go to this person's and make everything to suddenly become rosy. That might not be the case. That might not be the case. The majority of people that I know helping people with grief use one or method or another, and grief is so multifaceted. I personally use 5 different approach at the same time, but everybody approach differently. So perhaps in that situation, allow the word yet.
Maybe like to what you've just said, Dr. Birgit, saying being in grief is like wearing dark sunglasses. Maybe also that person can actually, when things comes, when the unexpected comes, first you have to understand that there are steps that you have to take to get better. First, you have to look after your health, because there is no point in going into depression, and then after that, because losing someone, that person, they wouldn't want you to suffer after they're gone. They want you to feel that freedom. It might be dark that moment. Things might not make sense that moment. But it's really important to cherish the memories. And sometimes the good memories that we have are the ones that hurt the most. So to truly embrace the death of that person and celebrate them, because to God it is a sin when we hold on to the dead. He wants us to actually let it go. And sometimes if that person is holding unforgiveness, this is where Satan comes in. For me, I've realized later that the grieving that I thought was grieving wasn't grieving. It was him afflicting me with pain so that I feel more pain. But now knowing what I know, I just let it go. When someone dies, I let them go completely. I accept it that I'm never gonna see them again, but I know there's gonna be rapture where we can all meet again. So those are the times where I look for is to celebrate. But at the end of the day, we are all on earth for a reason. And I don't know how I can put it. That is no mercy to what unforgiveness. Because if you don't forgive, that you get handed over to Satan, because Satan loves torturing those who don't forgive. And that's why professionals comes in. Professional, their job is to help you to let it go, what's no longer there anymore, to accept that. Because when you give birth to that person, it's a blessing to actually accept that they're gone, but they're not really gone, and just celebrate their death. That's where professionals they're there for, people that are specialized with mostly grief. But like Dr. Biggett, you specialize in grief. For me, if you were to ask me as a coach, how do I things about grief, I tell you, go to professionals who knows exactly. I've tried to go to different psychology, but then what a psychologist I realized that the psychologists, although they were good, but they are not trained for grieving. So it's really, really important to get support, not trying to let people get what you're going through, because no one will get what you're going through. No one, only you inside of you that will know the pain. And that pain will want you to release it, to let it go. If you want people to understand, you will be waiting for years and years and years. Because no matter how much somebody loves you, they accept you, they support you, they will never know how you feel. And that's why when you speak out, speak it, and then breathing coach, they listen, so they can trigger those emotions that are causing that pain for you to release them. Any words of encouragement that are bigger to that you would like to leave with our audience?
Yeah, my word of encouragement, Numsa, is that sometimes it is difficult to see that there is even a possibility of light. As you mentioned just now, sometimes it feels like everything fails you. And I hear you, and I can only imagine how much pain you feel. But I would encourage you to use the word yet, that there is hope, there is help out there, even if you are yet to find one that works for you, that there is help, and therefore there is hope, one step at a time. And if it is, there is a saying, Numsa, this come to me just now. There's a saying that, you have to be able to look up to see in a dark night or after a storm, you have to, in the dark night, you can see the stars. After the storm, you can see rainbows, but you have to look up to see the stars. You have to look up to see the rainbow. Now, for some of us, we are in such a situations that we feel that we're drowning, that we cannot even look up. We could barely breathe, never mind looking up to look at stars. We could barely breathe and stay alive, never mind looking up and look at rainbow. But even if you are in that state, my heart goes out to you. And please know that in that situations, please help somebody, especially with my client. Please have somebody help them look up, help you look up, that have somebody help you breathe so you can look up and see the rainbow again, see the stars again. And if you feel that has not been any help, there is help. Just please keep looking. I have people who has been navigating through things for decades, and they eventually find the right help. and able to have less pain and live again in the way that feels good to you and move forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Birgitte. For me, my words of encouragement will be cherish the memories that your loved ones left behind, and allow yourself to find the joy through that. And also knowing that the grief can be very, very challenging, and you're also not alone. Surround yourself with love and seek support, like Dr. Birgit, she's a grieving coach. And just hold on to what you have as well, because you don't want to end up getting sick as well. So with grief, you can actually cause a sickness if you don't let it go. So it's really, really important to know that you are not alone. We create our own environment, the people that we want them to be around us. Love, we create it ourselves. So surround yourself with those people that want to be with you, and activities or enjoying activities that you love. You're not forgetting what has happened, but take each day as it comes. Embrace every moment. I think that's the one advice that I can give. So if you guys are watching us from any other part of social media, please do subscribe to our channel on YouTube to be part of the family. We have two groups, the Make Billionaire Mindset and Voice Talk Shows. Please join this group, and we like our pages, share this broadcast, and go to the website www.coach, sign up for love and finding your own voice and lead from within. If you are somebody who's grieving, please do contact Dr. Birgit from the website or direct on her social media. She will respond to you. She's good at responding, so contact her. Know that you are not alone. And have a beautiful, beautiful weekend, everyone. It is Friday today. And God bless and live with grace.